What is your gamer origin story?
Oh, what is my gamer origin story? Well, I think like everybody in the hobby, it goes back quite a bit. And it's in those, middle years of the formative years when we were all crazy utes. Um, Mine actually started a little earlier than that, but I don't consider it my true origin. When I was between 7 and 10, I can base it based on where we were living at the time, not necessarily based on my age. There was a group of older kids in the neighborhood, and they were into that D&D thing. And, I was a couple years younger than them, obviously. But like good gamers, they wanted to recruit another person into the fold, not necessarily for their group, but just in general to the hobby. And they invited me in, and I started with watching them play and seeing them interact. And then every once in a while, they'd let me run a monster. And towards the end, I did get to make a character, but I wasn't like specifically a member of that group. As time went on, and I entered that age range that those guys were in, is when I really started up. And we started with advanced and then moved into second. So it was right on the cusp. So we're talking like 1990-ish, right? And second was our jam at first, but we found ourselves doing these little pot shots. I didn't really have a true campaign under my belt at that point. Everybody was learning. There were no internet, no forums, no help desk. We had to sort of figure it out as we went along. And we were doing just that. Our first real campaign hit when Spelljammer came out. And Spelljammer was the first experience where I had a long-term, multi-year experience. Now, interestingly enough, going all the way back to when I was single digits in age with those older guys that were jerks in the neighborhood, but let me into their game, I knew from moment one that the hobby was for me. I knew I enjoyed playing this. I knew I enjoyed visualizing what happened. I'm a big theater of the mind guy, so back then, it was a lot more cerebral. They had little pewter minis, but they were playing almost exclusively theater of the mind, and that's probably what molded me a little bit. But the minis were there just for spatial relationships, and we're not talking wargaming, bend the ruler measurements. We're talking just gaming measurements. So I have to tip my hat to those guys. Steve, if you're out there somewhere, thank you very much for letting me into your basement, even though you hated me. And then when second edition rolled around, specifically Spelljammer, that's when we really caught our stride, and shit, there was no stopping us from that point forward.